Straight ahead on 12 News, a comeback of a majestic bird.
And it's nice that we can go out now and see them on a regular basis.
Plus, a proposed change in winter parking that appears to be coming to Golden Valley. But first, the debate is on in a hotly contested race for Congress. 12 News starts right now. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Political experts say one of the most closely watched races in the nation is in Minnesota's 3rd Congressional District.
Now, that's where Republican incumbent Eric Paulsen is going up against DFL State Senator Terry Bonoff. And today, the two squared off in a debate hosted by 3 local chambers of commerce. Delane Cleveland was there and joins us now with more. Delane?
Mike and Alex, the candidates debated for about an hour about a variety of topics, from transportation to jobs to the Affordable Care Act. Of course, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump's name was also a key talking point. A full house packed into the Marriott in Minnetonka for a congressional debate between Republican incumbent Eric Paulsen, who touted his experience.
I've been able to transcend the partisan divide and work across the aisle to get things done for both the people of Minnesota and for our district.
And Democrat Terry Bonoff, who highlighted her business background.
I will tell you, those lessons I learned in business have stayed with me today, and I know they'll stay with me into the future.
The debate was mostly cordial as they explained their views on things like transportation funding.
This is the one area where I vote for tax increases, and that is taxes that fund our infrastructure and our transportation system.
We should be looking at using energy royalties and expansion of that. I've done proposals with Congressman Tim Walz bipartisanly to say we should put all of that money into infrastructure, into new projects and transportation.
The two candidates also addressed the Affordable Care Act.
It's absolutely certain that Obamacare has been a disaster. People are paying more for their premiums. People have had fewer choices for their doctor or for their health plans.
We cannot go backwards to the days where pre-existing conditions were not covered and our young people weren't able to be on our their parents' policies.
But midway through the debate, the talk turned away from policy differences as Bonoff attempted to tie Paulsen to Donald Trump.
That is not somebody fit to be commander-in-chief, and that Congressman Paulsen has not from day one denounced that man as a leader is not political courage.
Paulsen, however, was quick to respond.
Donald Trump has not earned my vote. The candidate I endorsed is not on the ballot this fall, and that's disappointing.
Well, the debate also included some political theater. Paulsen attempted to get Bonoff to sign a pledge that would call off outside third-party spending in their race. Bonoff said she would only sign such a pledge if they both agreed to return all of the money from their political action committees. Mike and Alex?
All right, thanks, Delane. Well, like many high-profile races, money could be a determining factor.
In that case, the edge usually goes to the incumbent. Challenger Terry Bonoff has about $571,000 in cash on hand. That's according to filings with the Federal Election Commission. Compare that to Eric Paulsen, who has more than $3 million on hand. Paulsen has won the last 4 elections, often by substantial margins, but this race could be more competitive. Bonoff has name recognition, and the 3rd District has a history of voting both parties.
Candidate filings wrapped up for city council and school board races in Maple Grove. 6 candidates are running for 2 council seats, including Judy Hansen, who was appointed last year to replace Leanne Sargent. Incumbent Eric Johnson did not file for re-election. And over in Plymouth, 3 open city council seats will appear on the fall ballot. One of those seats is unopposed. Judy Johnson is the only candidate who filed in Ward 1. There will also be a new face to represent Ward 3 since Marge Beard is not running for re-election.
The future of a Blue Line light rail extension from Minneapolis to Brooklyn Park took a big financial step forward. It's a $464 million step forward after the 5 counties Transit Improvement Board committed to funding about 31% of the Blue Line light rail extension project. Last week, Hennepin County committed to covering 10% of the project's cost, and now Minnesota will apply to get federal funds to cover half of the project's cost.
The beauty of the federal funds is those are funds that are set aside for transit investments. And if we don't bring them to Minnesota, they're going to go to Denver, they're going to go to Seattle, they're going to go to Dallas or other places that we compete with. So we're bringing federal tax dollars back into Minnesota to help make our transportation system better.
Whether or not Minnesota gets federal funds for the project will be decided next year.
Golden Valley has given preliminary approval to tweaking its winter parking rules. And the City Council voted Tuesday night to ban on-street parking from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. from November 1st to March 31st. It would give people in need of on-street parking an extra couple of hours. The current rules ban parking from midnight to 6 a.m. during the snow months. Councilmember Joni Clausen voted against the change. Instead, she wanted no parking restrictions except during snow emergencies. And here's how other local suburbs handle on-street parking. Plymouth, Crystal, and New Hope all have year-round overnight parking bans. Robbinsdale, on the other hand, allows on-street parking except during snow emergencies.
Football and soccer seasons for high school athletes will wrap up this fall at the new U.S. Bank Stadium. The Minnesota State High School League says ticket prices will go up for those events too. The price for an adult ticket for football will increase by $1, and the price for soccer will go up by $2. This puts the ticket price for those sports even with the price to see volleyball, basketball, or dance team finals.
The primary reason for the small increase is to offset insurance costs all across the board at our tournaments, as well as help out with tournament expenses at all of our State High School League events.
Part of the ticket price goes back to participating schools. The State High School League points out that tickets have only gone up $4 in the last 30 years. Swans may be a common sight in Minnesota nowadays, but 50 years ago, they were nowhere to be found.
Well, that's despite being native to the area. And Emily Reguse takes a look at their history and why they're doing so well here today.
Trumpeter swans are Minnesota's largest bird, with a wingspan that can stretch as far as 10 feet.
They were fairly widespread when Europeans first moved into the state.
But by the late 1800s, the swans were gone, taken out by hunters and agricultural development.
There were no swans in Minnesota for about 60 years.
That's until 1956, when the Three Rivers Park District started shipping swans from a wildlife refuge in Montana to Minnesota.
We raised swans for quite a few years, releasing them into the wild and getting the population started.
And by the mid-1980s, the swan population reached 100. But it was time to do more, and the DNR stepped in.
They brought eggs down from Alaska. So that was where they were bringing down 50 plus eggs a year for about 4 or 5 years.
Since then, the swan population has been rapidly expanding.
Now there's somewhere between 12 and 16,000 swans in the state of Minnesota.
Swans can no longer be hunted, so their biggest threat is flying into power lines and eating lead.
We've banned the use of lead for waterfowl hunting for the last 20 years. There's still a lot of lead in the wetlands, and it doesn't take much to kill a swan.
Luckily, swans are now thriving in Minnesota.
They're a big bird, and they're an impressive bird, and it's nice that we can go out now and see them on a regular basis.
Emily Reguse, Channel 12 News.
Minnesota and Wisconsin have the largest trumpeter swan populations of the lower 48 states, and wildlife officials say if you see a swan, enjoy it from a distance and don't feed it. Still ahead, a story that will interest runners, how to choose a race that's best for you and your pocketbook.
We will see what the Better Business Bureau has to say up next. And then a little bit later in sports, we catch up with one of the country's top young volleyball players. It's Champlin Park's Sydney Hilley.
But first, remaining hot and sticky with highs Thursday in the upper 80s.
Welcome back. You may have noticed more runners out on the trails and streets around you.
Yeah, we're in the height of the running season, and whether you are a seasoned runner or a rookie, in today's Money Savers, Shannon Slatton has some tips on picking the best race for you.
Kind of a perfect storm of having everybody coming in.
At stores like TC Running Company in Maple Grove,
What color do you like on those?
this is the busiest time of year.
All of our marathoners are looking to freshen up their shoes for Twin Cities. We've got all the high school kids that are kind of coming back into cross country.
This store specializes in helping runners find the right shoe.
I like to figure out where they're at as a runner. Let's pop those on and see how they feel.
Numbers show running is on the rise, and non-traditional races are one reason why.
A lot of the times to get usually new runners, acclimated to the idea of even running an event, you're going to see a lot of like color runs, foam runs, the Warrior Dash type runs.
First-time runners are often attracted to branded races, like the Esprit de Ski in Maple Grove, which is just for women, or trendy races, like the ones where you run for hot chocolate, or even run from zombies.
There's a little bit of a pitch, like you have to set yourself apart. Running a 5K in the local area, it's kind of a dime a dozen.
Signing up for one of these races is often about what you get.
A surprising amount of people worry more about what they get for running the race than actually the race itself.
That's okay, but as with any purchase, the more you know, the closer you'll come to getting the race you want.
The running community is very wired in. There's a lot of information online. Look for customer reviews from people who have run their races in the past, see what past participants have thought about the race. Was it well organized?
Also, look at refund policies. If you are injured, can you run another race? Or if the race is canceled altogether, do you get your money back?
I think a good thing people might want to do is pay the registration fees with a credit card just in case the race doesn't come off. Then you can dispute the charges and hopefully get your money back.
And finally, if you are racing for a charitable cause, follow through to make sure your money gets to the finish line soon after you do.
Many people like to run just period. They like to run these races, and if there's a charitable aspect, so much the better.
In Maple Grove, Shannon Slatton, 12 News.
Coming up, how police are bonding with kids in Robbinsdale.
But first, we kick off our prep football training camp reports with a visit to the Osseo Orioles. John Jacobson has that and much more coming up next in sports.
Today we start our annual previews of high school football teams in the area. First up is defending Class 6A champion Osseo. The Orioles will look a lot different this fall, starting at the top. Here's Jason Malillo with today's training camp report.
Hey, that's a kill shot in the game, right? Yeah.
Ryan Stockhouse is the new head football coach at Osseo High School. Stockhouse brings 12 years of coaching experience, but this will be his first season ever as the head man.
It was a busy summer, just kind of reestablishing how we're going to do things and the way we're going to think about things, and really getting the team to kind of turn into its own unit this year. And I feel like we really transformed this summer, so I'm just really happy to be here with the season started and ready to roll.
Osseo made a fantastic run last fall that culminated with the school's first ever state title in football. That does put a target on the back of this year's squad, but players and coaches are trying not to think about that.
In the end, it's just another season. I mean, you got to play the best you can play every year, you know, whether you won the state championship or not last year.
It's not 2015, it's now the 2016 Osseo Oriole football team. And I talked to these guys that we have an opportunity starting yesterday, you know, starting going back to the summer, but right now to decide that we're gonna work to be a great team.
On both sides of the ball, Osseo is wanting for varsity experience, but that doesn't seem to concern Stockhouse.
I think it's okay. I think every year in football you graduate guys, and the next year comes around and it's time to see, you know, what juniors really grew into men, and when you know, into that senior year, what sophomore or JV players are now going to be varsity players.
Returning starters Nash Jensen and Jackson Ellert will anchor the offensive line. Behind them will be senior Marmar Hughes, who should be the Orioles' top running back.
It'll be an energy type of thing. Like, our offense gets going, then the defense is getting going. So the more we push the ball down the field, the less the defense have to work. So we got new guys, but it's still good team chemistry. We still know them. We still, you know, and we know each other. We're always with each other, hanging out and whatnot. So I think it'll be good.
On defense, all 11 positions will be filled by first-time starters.
I think we're going to be fast. I think we're going to be physical. We have a lot of speed defensively. And so just making sure that we understand our assignments and we're getting all 11 hats to the ball and really pride ourselves at attempts for takeaways and 3-and-outs. So we're going to try to use the speed to our advantage and see what we can do.
At the all-important quarterback position, it's an open competition with several boys vying to be QB1. The season will start with a bang for the Orioles as they open against rival Maple Grove. Jason Malillo, 12 Sports.
Here's a capsule look at Osseo. The Orioles were 3-3 at one point last season before finishing with 7 straight wins. Just 3 starters return. And as Jason said, they open the season at rival Maple Grove on September 1st, Thursday, starting at 4. A look at the Totino Grace Eagles. Though it's mid-August, summer is pretty much over for fall high school athletes. This week on the final What I Did This Summer episode, Jay Wilcox talks with one of the nation's top high school volleyball players.
Sydney Hilley hopes this will be a championship season for the Champlain Park volleyball team. She learned something about competing for titles in the spring and summer.
Yeah, probably my favorite thing was winning a national championship. That's been a dream of mine since I even knew what a national championship was. And just winning that with my team was awesome. And then we got second at AAU Nationals. And then I also went to Fort Lauderdale and played on the junior national team, and we got second. So that was really cool.
Hilley was tournament MVP as her Minnesota Select 18 team won the USAV Nationals in Milwaukee in April, becoming the first Minnesota team to do so. In July, getting to wear a USA jersey was really special.
It's amazing. I mean, going to the Olympics is my dream, so getting to wear a USA jersey, and it's the same jersey that the actual national team players are wearing, so it's crazy.
The time between tournaments wasn't exactly downtime for Sydney either.
I tried to go to the gym at least once a day, every day, even if it was just by myself. I'd just step by myself, and then I try to lift 2 or 3 times a week.
After competing at such a high level, coming back to high school volleyball could seem like a slow pace, but there's one big difference that keeps Sydney Hilley challenged.
I mean, the biggest difference is I'm hitting for high school, so that's a lot of fun, because for my club team and for the USA team, I was only setting. So here I'm hitting, and I mean, that's a challenge for me since I don't hit a lot, but it's a lot of fun.
For What I Did This Summer, Jay Wilcox, 12 Sports.
Hilley has committed to play volleyball for the University of Wisconsin, and here's an indication of her leadership ability. She was named captain of the junior national team. So pretty good summer for her, and I think it's going to be a great fall for Rebel volleyball.
One to watch for sure.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, John. Still ahead, a Robbinsdale baseball field that provided a front row seat to community building.
We'll show you. We'll be right back. And finally, kids literally had a field day in Robbinsdale.
And from athletic games to an up-close and personal look at a police squad car.
That protects the officer with that back and front camera just in case a person get hurt in the back seat or we hit somebody or somebody in the front of our vehicle.
Metro Transit and Robbinsdale Police joined area kids in a youth field day at the MLB Twins All-Star Field at Lee Park in Robbinsdale. The event was put on by the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation, which along with the Twins helped build the field at Lee Park 2 years ago in honor of the All-Star game being played in Minneapolis. The field day helps build skills and fosters good relations between police and youth.
When you have them able to sit in a police car, ask those questions that they've been burning to ask, and learning more about it on a personal level, it really breaks down those barriers.
The hope is to make the Youth Field Day an annual event. And that is all the news for us. Thanks so much for joining us.
And we'll see you back here again Thursday starting at 4.